So, hey Cap, you on? I know you can hear me, and I know you're in the comments or whatever, right? So, you know, yeah, I'm looking at him on IG. So, look, man, the whole point of what we're doing with this right now, man, just different camera talk, man. Like questions, questions. If people, you know, need help with something, struggling with something, just want to talk about something, want to learn something. Um, Man, if you got a topic in mind since you joined us, man, just throw something out to get us going.
Let's start out with how long you been shooting and what you shoot with. I think that's probably a good place to start.
You said what?
Probably just how long you been shooting and what you shooting with right now.
Oh, okay. I guess so. So we can start there. Look, I've been shooting y'all for about 6 years now. Woo. I've been from Canon to Sony. Man, I started out like most people. Let's go to the humble beginning story. Um, just like everybody else, I went and got a little cheap Canon T6 out of a pawn shop, and I think I lucked up for that little bundle. I spent $300 on it and got the camera, the two kit lenses, the 18 to 55, and the 70 to 300. Because it also, depending on which Canon you get, you can get the 55 to 210. Uh, I had the T6, then I had the Canon SL2. Then I jumped straight to the Canon EOS R. Then got the Sony A6000 off of a lady on Marketplace for like $400 with the two kit lenses, a bunch of batteries, stuff like that. Hated the camera, but liked what it could be. So then I traded that in for the A6400. Then I've jumped ship to Sony, had the A7R3, sold all my Canon stuff, used that money and bought the A7R4. Sold the A7R3 when the A7 IV came out, sold the A7R4 for the R5, and then I still have those two cameras. I'm on the R5 right now, and have a Sony FX6 as well.
Okay. Yeah, it's similar to where I started out. I started out with the SL3, went to the EOS R, and then went to the R5, and now I'm with the R5C. Just a lot of gigs in between there, showing you how to use your camera and getting really accurate with aiming and everything that goes along with that for sure. I think somebody Cap Two Red Studio says, "How about more money into the body or more money into the glass
Yeah, I
or
just saw
why?"
that. So definitely, I tell everybody the same thing. The lens is the
Yeah,
investment.
yeah, definitely more into the glass because you can kind of master the settings over and over. But that lens, whether you're shooting on a 70 to 200 or a 16 or a 24 to 50, is vastly different in the way that you shoot your subject and the millimeters that in between there. So it's a big difference in the glass that you're going to be using. Like me coming from Canon, I started out with the EF mount. Now I'm on an
Yep.
RF glass. That's a big
Mm-hmm.
difference. That's a big
And
price
price
tag
too.
difference too. Yeah.
That's one of the things that made me like, okay, Canon, y'all lost me.
Yeah. But Sony shooters, Nikon, y'all still got the E mount, the Z mount. Y'all still got Sigma, Tamron. RF glass is just now getting to Sigma, and I don't think the autofocus is included in that.
So this is my thing with the RF glass though, because I'm not gonna completely dump on Canon. When I had the EOS R, one thing that I loved was the new RF mount, and I like Canon and Nikon took two vastly different approaches, and I can respect both. Canon, when they came out with the RF mount, pretty much catered to their high-end clients. They dropped all the 1.2, the 50 1.2, the 85 was the 1.2. Then they had two versions. They had the regular version and the DS, the defocus smooth and or whatever. Like they dropped all their high-end glass first, which
Yeah.
great if you had the money, because I mean, every lens was like $3,000. I was like, hold up, Canon, what
Yeah.
we doing? Because the lenses that I had, I bought the EOS R with the 24 to 105 L kit, because they ended up
Yeah.
doing it with the 24 to 105 variable aperture cheap lens. So I did the L. So I had the f4 lens. The first budget lens they came out with was that 35 macro,
Yeah.
and I had that. And then everything else I adapted. I adapted my 85-1.4, or no, 85-1.8. I adapted my 85-1.8, my 50-1.4, my 70 to 200. I had the version 3. I adapted all those lenses. So if you had the money for those high end lenses, then yeah, it was great. But if you didn't, and Nikon did the other route, Nikon dropped all their 1.8s first. And now they're coming out with their high end glass. So, um, oh yeah, Cap, that F2, that 28 to 70 F2. Yeah, I hated I didn't get to get my hands on that lens before I left Canon. Sony has one now though, so I feel good. You still there, right? Mm. Hey, bro, I don't know if I lost you or not. You looking a little frozen over
It's
there.
oh, is it back? Yeah, it's back. There we
Okay,
go.
yeah, I got you. I got you. Got you.
Yeah. I was gonna say, coming from EF to RF glass, and I'm not one of those people who kind of get into the, oh, you shoot Sony, you shoot Nikon. Doesn't really matter if you know what you're doing. But I will say, going for that to all RF glass from EF, big difference.
Oh,
Like
you
life
switched your
change.
whole.
Yeah, I only shoot RF glass.
Okay.
Everything. 70 to 200, 24 to 70, f2.8.
Which
Now I got
70 to
yeah,
200 do you have? You have the version 1 that zoomed, or the version 2 with the built-in? I don't know if I lost you again. You there?
oh, what about now?
Okay, gotcha. I can hear you now.
Yeah, I got the RF 7200 that zooms out.
Okay, so you had that first one.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. I'm not buying another one. These prices.
I
Nah,
didn't know if you were one of those people that felt like, everybody
nah.
complained about it when it came out because, yeah, it's small, compact, but then the zooming in and out, they're afraid of stuff getting in the lens. I don't know if you were one of those people that's, okay, yeah, as soon as they come out with an internal zoom, when I'm going to get that, or I'm okay with the external zoom.
No, as long as you know what you're doing, I mean, you know how to move your feet a little bit, you can work it out as far as the zoom goes. I mean, that's not a big deal because for the price of the glass, I'm not buying it 2, 3 times. Every time they come out with one, I'm not buying it.
I don't blame you. I do not blame you. See, that's the one thing that I do like about Sony with the E-mount, how they didn't lock it. Because what made it easy for me to switch to Sony, I had the Sigma MC11 adapter. I adapted all my EF lenses. I used my 70 to 200. Shoot, man, probably a year and a half after I switched to Sony. Um,
Well, they
same.
had to though. They had to because they couldn't command that level in the market. They had to.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still smart. Canon is just now opening up their RF mount, which is hurting them. That's hurt them a lot in the long run.
Because they had to. They forced them.
They needed to.
Because with Nikon capturing red, buying out red, now you got
Smart,
a real market. You got a real
smart.
somebody coming up behind you on the cinema lenses.
And I kept telling people, told people a couple of years ago, because now I will dump on people who aren't, Sony shooters, but out of fun. At the end of the day, I started Canon. I respect Canon. I've shot Nikon. I've taken a couple pictures on the Fuji. Like, you hand me a camera. A camera's a camera. I'm gonna use it.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I did say, like, I left Canon. People ask me, would you ever go back to Canon? Probably not. I'm not against Canon. I'm not so loyal to any brand that I can say I'll never jump ship. If somebody gives me a reason to jump ship, I will. Prime example, I left Canon because at the time I wanted to be, I wanted higher resolution bodies. Canon had two mirrorless cameras when I left, the R and the
Yeah,
RP, 26 megapixels and 30. It wasn't what I wanted. And so I went to Sony, got the R3 for 42. Then when the R5 got announced, I still had both. And when the R5 got announced, I was like, okay, cool. I might sell my Sony, stay Canon. And I'll just deal with the expensive glass. Then, the 8K overheating thing, which I didn't care about the 8K, but I wanted the 4K HQ. That whole debacle, I was like, can't deal with that. People were getting like 15, 20 minutes of record time before the camera shut off. I was like, yeah, I can't do that. So that's why I said I sold all the Canon stuff. I went to the R4 at 61 megapixels. So I was like, okay, you can't top this. And so from a sheer resolution standpoint, that's what shifted me to Canon, not to mention, I mean, Sony, not to mention, as far as video shooters, a lot of people were jumping ship from Canon to Sony or from whatever to Sony anyway for the video stuff. So it made more sense for me to be to be a Sony shooter. So, I mean, there's no reason for me to go back to Canon, but I did definitively tell people I could never be a Nikon shooter, and they're like, "Why?" Z8, Z9, amazing cameras, probably, arguably the best
yeah,
hybrid cameras. Or if you're talking about pure what it can do, I mean, those are like the only cameras that can do, you know. Well, no, some of the Canons can do internal RAW, but I don't think they go up. I think what the Z8 9 do 8K 60. You're not
well,
topping that on a hybrid camera.
they own the Kodak. That's why
I
they do
know.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
they,
before the Red acquisition, if you were trying to go from, hybrid shooter to, a you know, real filmmaker in the sense of having, a camera that has your SDI ports to work in a real, film or broadcast setup, not just I make movies, but actually having the ports and stuff you need
yeah,
for that kind of work, there was nothing after
no,
the Z9. Without Red, they had nothing. Canon has the C100, C200, C3, all the way to the C500.
yeah,
Sony has everything from the FX30 to the Venice 2. They had upward growth. Nikon didn't. So purchasing Red, best thing they could have ever did. Even
I
better,
feel like,
they switched to the Z mount for the
yeah,
Komodo X and the V Raptor. Also, smartest thing they could have did.
yeah,
I had a friend of mine who has the Komodo X and argued. No, he has the Komodo. He has the original Komodo. They have an RF mount, and he was like, "Man, that's dumb. Why would I want a Z mount? Because it has the shallowest flange distance on any camera. Why wouldn't you? Because now you can literally adapt any lens to a Red. Period. Any, which is another reason why I never would have considered a Red camera before now, because I can adapt my EF glass to an RF mount. Um, you could to a Nikon, but aside from the Z8 and 9, autofocus was bad. Well, the Z6 III now, but autofocus was bad. So I was like, I'm not doing that either. But you know, shoot, now that they did that with the Reds, I've been looking at one of those V Raptors. I ain't got the money for it, but it's
yeah.
nice to look at it. Like, hey, one day, yeah, me
That
and
was the
you.
only thing that actually made me want to leave Canon. Honestly, that was the Komodo X. That was the only cinema lens, cinema camera, whatever that I would have left Canon for. And now that Nikon bought them out and changed the Z mount, I have no interest because I got all RF glass.
You can still adapt it. So that's the thing. You can
I don't want to do that.
but so their change to the Z mount did more than just change the mount. They improved the autofocus, but again, with that mount change, you can use anything. And I want to say, no, it doesn't come with the adapter, but they make adapters for
Yeah,
Z to RF, and they're not. I don't think they're that expensive. Just like they make one for Z to E, so you can still use your lenses in the same way you would have before. And
and
so,
the only real knock on the Komodo X was I think it had phase detect autofocus, but
well, it was
Canon
in
has
beta.
it was in
It
beta.
was in beta, so it came out
So
of beta for the Z mount ones.
yeah, so that was the only real knock on the Komodo X. The
Yeah,
lens was, I mean, the sensor was great, produced amazing image quality, I mean, that was the only real knock on the camera at all.
The more I've learned about the Reds, because I a lot of the things that I've seen shot on Red, I didn't like the way they looked. And it wasn't until I was doing I can't remember whose video I was watching. It might have been a CVP video or something like that. And it was doing a deep dive into the camera to see like a lot of the images I see with Red, they're usually just real contrasty.
Yeah,
And I don't like it. But that's the setting in the camera you can change. Like there is a dedicated like contrast that you could change that. I'm pretty sure the average person just leaves it as is. So once I saw you can change that and you can if you want it to, it's raw. If you want it to look like whatever. So I'm like, I'll never have airy money. So that's probably the most dynamic range I'll ever have
yeah,
in a camera.
yeah. Cap says they dropped the price. They did drop the price
Yep.
a lot on the Komodo.
Because and
This
I
is
was
it.
wondering why they did that because they pretty much slashed it in half, but that's because they turned around a few months later and dropped that Z mount one.
Yeah,
They did.
I mean,
I give it to them. They know. I'm not going to give them too much credit and say Nikon knows exactly what they're doing, but they're impressing me with how they're treating this acquisition of Red. Because I was worried. I'm like, you're talking about probably the second biggest name in film behind
yeah,
Airy. So I'm like, is it still gonna be the Red that we know, or is it gonna be a Red in name and it's Nikon? Because Red cameras hold their value. I don't
yeah.
feel so great about a Nikon like that. But so far, I'm liking what they're doing with it.
See, every time I see, and we got a Nomad image that says somebody bought a FX6, sold all their Canon equipment in 2 days.
Hey, that's a
That's
great camera.
great. Yeah, it is. It's great. It's a great camera. But every time Nikon, Sony, or Canon buys somebody, I'm always worried because you know that they're going to lose the field. They're going to lose the culture. And they're going to immediately become corporate entities at that point.
True.
So all that clout that they earned over the years, listening to their customers, coming back, implementing changes. With Nikon, that's probably gone. A
But
lot of that.
that's why I said I'm worried. But so far,
Yeah.
like I say, let's go back to the Komodo X. The things we just complained about. Okay, for you, changing to the to the Z mount. Now I got to buy an adapter where I wouldn't have had before. Cool, but like I said, they took the autofocus out of beta. It's better than what is it? Mirrorless camera good? No, but it is better than what it was, and it works well with adapted lenses. So they improved that. Uh, it's like one or two minor things that they improved on the camera, which is fine because the camera was already really good as it is. So, like I said, so far they haven't done anything terrible yet. So, I'm hoping they don't because like where I was interested in the Komodo, I don't want a Super 35 camera. So I'm like, oh, that V Raptor is it's looking, and I can use my existing lenses. It's looking quite promising now. The only thing that worries me about like if I were to switch to like, a Komodo X, a V Raptor, I lose my ND filters. And that's not something I want to get rid of. So I've considered looking at the V Raptor XL, but then now you're talking like $25,000 to like 50. Big price jump for a bigger camera with ND filters.
Oh, damn.
No,
Last
you're
thing I
good.
heard was you lost the ND. You said you're going to lose the ND filters on the FX6?
Yeah, if I were to switch to like a Komodo X or the V Raptor XL has them, but I want to say the Z mount V Raptor is like 30,000. The XL is like
Yeah.
50, 52. So I'm like, man, are those ND filters really worth 20,000 extra dollars?
Yeah, so where I'm at right now, I got the R5C. That's kind of like my favorite camera right now. It does everything. High dynamic range, 15 stops, 45 megapixels on the photography
Mm-hmm.
end. It doesn't have ND filters, but it's got almost everything. Also with the Canon cripple hammer in a few areas as well.
Yeah, you
But
lost your image stabilization going from the R5 to the R5C.
yeah, Canon, they know what they be doing. But if I were to go to a different camera, probably be the C400, the new one that
So
just
that's the
came
one.
out.
That's the one. If Canon was ever
Yeah,
gonna sway me to buy a camera, the C400. I want to see it in
yeah,
practice though, because the one thing that I like probably the most about the C400 is okay. Let's take the FX6 for instance, because I have that. I'm used to that. I got my base ISO at 8,000 or 800, and then my second at 12,800. Great.
Yeah.
My A7 IV has base ISOs of 800 and 3200. So that C400 having that 800, 3200, and 12,800,
Yeah.
I
That's
could
crazy.
see that. Like, I wish Sony would do that with a camera because there's plenty. So with my A7 IV, there's plenty of times where being at 3200 is enough. Guess
Yeah.
I don't need to be, because when you with the FX6, I mean, it's easy to work with it, especially with Cine EI because you can preview at stops below it, so it's easy to use. But it's like now it's either I can expose it the way I want, or I got to be like at 12,000, use the ND filters, which again it has it, so it's not hard. Everything is built in to do what I need to do to cut the exposure. But if I had like if you had three different stops that you can choose, it would make exposing somewhere in that 2,500 to 5,000 range, because that's pretty much what I miss with the FX6 without ND filters and stuff. If you're at 12,000, you can preview down at 6,400, 3,200. Be good. But it's just like I make it work, and again, easy
Yeah.
to work with, but just having that right in the middle, which is why I'm okay with like with the Burano having 800 and 4,000.
It's like a
Because
$25,000 camera though.
look, man,
The
look,
Verona.
look, 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 man, look
Oh,
that.
Cap had a good comment here. The C100, and he says it's still a great camera, but it only does 1080. What I want to tell people is, if you're only doing social media, that's all you need. If you
For
got a
real.
good camera with a great sensor that can shoot crispy 1080, because that's all you're gonna get anyway by the time they compress it and put it out to the world. Instagram, YouTube,
Yep.
TikTok, all of these platforms.
So
So
look,
if yeah,
no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. I was on piggyback
well,
when you finish.
I said if somebody could, if you get out of the notion where you need a A1, or you need a R1, or you need a R3, if you get something a cinema camera that does great 1080, you're already ahead of the game with the dynamic range on that sensor.
Yeah, but I was gonna piggyback and say I watched a video on YouTube probably about 3 weeks ago, and the guy it was just talking about best export settings for Premiere, so you don't have as much artifacts and banding and stuff like that. And he even showed it with a 1080p video. Take a 1080p video, export it at 4K, because what's going to hold your quality by default, Premiere is not set up to export at a constant bit rate. It's a variable bit rate. And so he was like, export at 4K, maximum render quality, maximum bit depth. I mean 4K, maximum render quality, bit depth. Change it to a continuous bit rate. Set that to 100. So it's gonna make It's gonna make an extremely large file,
Yeah,
but it holds up the quality well. So you're pretty much upscaling without having to use something like, Topaz Video AI, which I have that too. And there's a lot of things that I've done it 1080 and upscaled back to 4K, and it does fine. But I mean, resolution ain't everything. Like you said, resolution isn't everything. The dynamic range matters more. You know, 10-bit, 12-bit. If you have RAW, that's better than an 8-bit codec. Like, there's a lot of things that make the image. It will make or break the image more than just the resolution.
yeah. I think a lot of people starting out, we're so spec hungry, and we look at so many videos, not really knowing what we want to do by that point.
Yeah.
Which direction I want to go in, whether I want to do podcasts, social media videos, skits, whether I want to do my local business, audio intros, commercials, any of that stuff. I think we just get so caught up in, hey, I need a 8K camera, not knowing an 8K raw workflow will literally kill my computer.
I don't even want that. It all sounded cool until I got more and more into video editing, and I record everything highly compressed, and my computer handles it fine. But then, shoot, you
Yeah,
start adding effects and color and overlaying clips on top of each other. Oof,
yeah. And we're not even talking about storage, because I told you the other day, I need
yeah,
a
that
30
too.
second I did a 30-second video, just me practicing C Log 3, R5, not even R5C with the higher dynamic range. I probably saved 140 gigs of just raw
Mm.
footage. And then
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about like 10 to 15 clips here. We ain't talking, and these are like 30 seconds, a minute clips that I'm shooting. Narrowed it down to 30 seconds, and it only came out to be 24 megabytes.
Dang.
I just wasted all of that space. Not wasted, but I'm
What
practicing.
codec do you record in on your Canon? Do you do H.265 or you still do H.264?
264.
Ah.
I mean, now I have all of those things on the R5C. I got light raw. I got raw video.
Yep.
Use that in quotations.
See, I
I got
do I do 265 for everything. It's more compressed and it's more taxing on the computer, but it saves me the space. And
yeah.
for people with any of the M series Max, it can handle that. That HSAT 265 fine. Because if it wasn't for that, man, my average project would probably be 4 or 5 times the size. Because my average music videos are about raw footage, and you're talking about 3 to 4.5 minute songs. Project raw files are probably you know 70, 80, 90 gigs.
Yeah. Cap says buys 8K camera, uses 1080 monitor.
Hey,
Nah,
that's stuff only we know though.
that's honestly because like you don't even. So that's why I say we get caught up in the FOMO, or the gas syndrome,
Okay.
and it's
Oh,
just like
let me pause you real quick. Hold up, and then hold up. Nomad, you're right about the NDs because yeah, they do cost. And but when you said resolution, I want to stop there because that's the problem. That's why I said we understand that 8K camera, but 1080p monitor. I'll probably do a short video about this because the thing that I run into all the time, people not understanding resolution, like the numbers, what they mean, how they come up with it. Like I ask people, you take pictures, and I do somebody's event, and they're like, "Oh, I want high resolution pictures. I want them to be, is your camera higher? Is your camera 4K quality? Ma'am, any camera taking pictures nowadays is higher than 4K quality. 4K is not that high for a
it's only 8
video.
megapixels.
Yes." Right, I'm gonna say for a video, yes. For
Yeah,
pictures, no. Any 24 megapixel camera is a 6K equivalent. We're already way past 4K.
yeah.
You're talking about my A7 or R5. I mean, I'm over 9K at this point. But it's like, I'm like, do y'all understand how we get these numbers? And they're like, no. So I was like, okay, 1080p. How do we get it? What does it mean? And I don't know. No, it's your pixels 1920 by 1080. It is your short side. 4K. How do we get 4K? The long side. Because what we all attribute to 4K is UHD. 3840 by 2160, which would be 2160p. The actual 4K, DCI 4K, what is it? 4096 by 2160. Again, 4K, over 4,000 pixels. It's a finite number, and people don't understand that. And it's like if they understood that, your monitor will make more sense why people have higher resolution monitors. Then it would make more sense because I tell people like when I love my R5. It's my favorite Sony camera I've ever owned. I rarely use it. I use it for video more than I do for stills for that reason. Why do I need 9K worth of I don't. If it's gonna get compressed and put on YouTube and YouTube, the picture's gonna get compressed and put on Instagram, Facebook, they're already not seeing that quality. If I'm not doing a whole bunch of heavy cropping, because that's about the only time I'll use it, is if I need to crop some of that out to get the framing I want. It's overkill. So I typically use my A7 IV, which do I like being limited to 33 megapixels? Not really. Not when I've had the R3, R4, and R5. Like it's the lowest resolution Sony camera I've owned, minus the APS-C one. So I want an A1 for that reason because the 50 megapixels is more what I'm used to. But as much as I don't like the camera personally, for me, from a resolution standpoint, it's a phenomenal camera, great at what it does, but it's just not what I want for stills. It's overkill for most stuff, and people don't understand that. And then it's like I tell people, shoot for the medium where your work is going. If your work is going on social media, pictures or video is getting compressed. 4K doesn't matter at that point. Shoot, for a lot of streaming right now, what we're doing recommends 720. We
Yeah,
both
for
have
sure.
8K cameras that mean absolutely nothing for streaming.
And just for full context, you shooting on a R5 A7 R5 right now. I'm on a DJI Action Cam 5 Pro. But I do have a light obviously coming in. But just for context, but the audio is good. That's one of the main things that people also have to pay attention to. If your audio quality is great, you can overcome a lot of video
Mhm.
grain and issues like that. But if the audio is bad, they're clicking off of it.
Well, same thing like you saw in my other video. I tell people all the time when they're like, because I tell people that and they're like, that don't make no sense. Because they're like, no, it has to look good. Which came first, the radio or the television?
Yeah, the radio.
We were used to hearing things way before we ever saw it. And then just think about it from your own personal. If y'all get on TV right now and we're watching a TV show or a movie that's not an old, Asian action flick, the second those words get out of sync, how long are you gonna watch that? You're not. The
Or even
second you're
if it's dubbed on Netflix as a French movie and they dubbed it in English, I'm probably gonna click off of it.
Exactly. And that's what I tell people. It's like you're not going to listen to bad audio on nothing. But this is the thing. If you got a great sounding video and poor audio, but you're talking and telling me something I want to hear, guess what? I can put my phone down. I can leave it on, speaker. I can be walking around, cleaning, doing stuff. I can be listening to you in the car because as long as I can hear you and you're saying some good stuff, I'm going to listen. I'm going to excuse
Audio
everything else.
podcast.
Yeah, because guess what? If you're not a professional videographer, I don't expect your video to look, grade A, because I don't expect you to have known light placement and 3-point lighting and how it should be set and camera composition. You're gonna learn that stuff while doing it. So I'm not expecting you to know that off top. But if it sounds good, I'm like, okay, cool. They're trying. They knew where to invest. That's what matters.
And even that, it took. Think about how long it took us, like quote unquote professionals. How long did it take you to learn the difference between 24-bit and 32-bit float?
Man, that was a few years ago for me because I never dialed into audio that well. Now I knew before I even knew 32-bit float was a thing. Now I do know, how to make sure my audio levels aren't clipping and I don't lose stuff. But I didn't realize that there was something out there that you can record in a format like that and not lose it. So it was just like, okay, cool. These are my limitations. Make sure my audio stays under this so I don't clip. Okay.
See, I didn't know any of that because I started out. I never even like wanted to do video. I was a photographer. I was a little league football photographer, just going out taking photos every day, every weekend in Nashville. So I never even envisioned myself doing any video.
Me neither.
Fast forward to now, if you're not doing video,
what are you doing?
Like, what are you doing?
what are you doing? I try to tell people that there's a lot of people around here that shoot, and I'm like, y'all need to learn video, and they don't listen to me, and I'm like, anybody can take a picture. Not saying anybody can be good, but where we're at, I know Cap, you're up the road from us. Nomad, I know you're in another state, but I'm pretty sure it's the same for you. It's a lot of people around us that feel like, okay, we got cameras, we can take pictures. And it's like, how do you set yourself apart as a professional? How do you set yourself apart? Even if that wasn't the thing that you made up your mind that you wanted to do. It's a camera. It can do both. Why not learn how to do both? Because to me, that shows me that you're a professional more than, okay, you can, are you going to be a one trick pony, like literally one trick, not a master at this craft? Like it's one thing if you're a master at headshots or portraits, but no, just one trick pony. I can only take pictures. That's it. Or Do you feel like a professional, somebody who I learned my craft? This is my field. I'm going to have a basic, even if it's just a basic understanding. I want to have a basic understanding of what this tool can do. Because at the end of the day, that's what a camera is. It is a tool. We give each other crap about who shoots what, whatever. It's a tool. It's a tool. This is a job, and this is what I grab to do the job. So I look at it like, your camera and all the different things it can do is like having a socket set. Every job ain't gonna require a 10 millimeter. I might need a 7 millimeter. I might need a 9 and 16. Like, know everything that your tool can do, or you just walking around wasting. I mean, as much as cameras cost nowadays, why not learn what it can do?
Man, you better, because you're leaving a whole lot of money on the table. One thing I learned pretty fast: if I'm gonna upgrade from a SL3 or T7, T8, if I'm gonna upgrade to EOS R, okay, I gotta make some money here in between there.
Mm-hmm.
Storage cost is going up, cloud cost is going up, everything business related entity is going up.
Talk
So
about it.
you got to learn how to get in between. Okay, you need to go out to these ball games and make a 30-second reel. And that's
Mm-hmm.
basic. That's something easy you can do. Even the most basic person can take a camera, not a phone, because the phone's gonna pixelate.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference between you shooting on an SLR, a mirrorless camera, or your iPhone. When you try to crop in, or when you try to move that from 4K to 1080 or 1080 to 4K, it's gonna pixelate. So that's the advantage you have over every mom or dad out there with a phone. And
Mm-hmm.
immediately when you step into that market, all right, I'm gonna charge you $50. You do $50 enough times, you get your name out there.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can flip this into better glass, more storage, or even get up to my own server, because that's where you really want to be with storage. But doing those jobs, I mean, it's fun because that's how you get out there. But it's learning, also learning the codecs, learning the editing styles. All of that stuff comes into play when you're trying to be successful in this game.
You know what made me learn video? It's gonna be the craziest thing in the world, right? This is what made me get into video. This is 2019. Anybody who watched Jared Poland, Manny Ortiz, or any of them guys in 2019, and if people don't believe me, go back and rewatch them. Especially those two guys. Did not matter what video they were recording, what they were talking about, what brand, what lens, nothing. Didn't matter what they were talking about. Manny Ortiz recorded a lot of his videos that year in an A6400 and praised how inexpensive it was for the good quality that you got out of it. It was a good 4K image. It was affordable. Jared Poland at that time had his studio decked out with EOS Rs. Those are the two cameras that I had, and he praised the EOS R for the 4K is really soft. It was real soft. It had that 1.7 times crop. Hated it, but the 1080 was phenomenal. It had a fairly high bit rate for 1080, so it held up, especially for upscaling. So I watched their videos all year long talking about these two cameras, and I'm like, I own these two cameras, and they talking about how great they are in video. I'm doing myself a disservice by not knowing how to do video
Yeah,
with these two cameras. I started with the OSR. Started playing around with C-Log, which was a little easier to edit than S-Log. Less dynamic range though. And I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. I want to learn how to do this. And then I was like, well, in order to learn how to color grade, I kind of have to learn how to record a video. So that made me look up, hey, what kind of settings do I need to have? Where should my shutter speed be? Why? What's the 180 degrees, rule? Why is that a thing? Or, all right, paying attention more to my ISO because I can't just crank the shutter when I'm out and it's bright without changing my. So it forced me to learn how the exposure triangle dealt with that. Then everybody's praising Sony and S-Log 3. So I'm like, okay, let's go over here and play with that. A lot different. Got to expose a lot more to the right. But then once I dived into S-Log, I was like, oh yeah, ain't no going back. I need a Sony camera.
yeah,
And
nuts.
it was all she wrote. But like you said earlier, man, people look at the cameras and that's it. Oh, I want a better camera. You said it when you're talking about storage and everything. People don't consider that. People don't
Yeah,
consider video editing requires a video card. I don't know how that goes over people's head what graphics cards are used for. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day and he was talking, telling him about, video editing and what kind of programs he can use. And he probably want a better computer. And I'm like, why? And I was like, because the graphics card, like, all right, you can, say the computer functions for you while you cutting the timeline and doing whatever you want to do because you're not doing heavy color grading and everything. Hit export and see how long it takes that project to render out. And I was like, when you're I said, when you're sitting there waiting for that, I was like, all of that matters. And people they don't consider all that up front when they're talking about the investment of equipment. It's just, oh, I want a better camera, I'm gonna get a better camera. No, okay. This is what I learned switching to my R3. And then I really learned to switch into my R4.
yeah,
Higher resolution cameras, you need better glass. It's no way around it
yeah.
because now an image that should look good is going to look soft because it's more resolution than the lens can resolve. Learn that real quick. So I just switch all my lenses. Learn real quick when I'm editing files from one camera to the other. The higher resolution and the larger the file, the more power it takes. Like my Lightroom would lag a little bit from, going from a R3 to R4. Photoshop actions would take a lot longer to load and stuff. Saving in Photoshop would take longer. Exporting out of Lightroom would take longer. Bigger files, more processing power requires it. So I had to switch computers, had to get a faster computer. Then got into video editing more and more. The more I learned how to do, I'm like, yes, I'm getting good at this. But now, like, dang, I'm waiting.
Yeah.
Wasting time waiting for these renders and stuff. So now I got to get a faster computer again because where I wasn't thinking about the graphics card, now that matters. Like, it's a rabbit hole that is why I tell people understand for whatever gear you have, understand that whole workflow before you change. The number of people that I've talked to not realizing, SD card speeds matter. Why does this SD card cost $200 and this one costs 50? I don't know, probably because it writes data 3 times faster. Why would that matter? Okay, considering the fastest SD card can write at like 300 megabytes a second and a raw file in an R4 is 125, boom, that means it's clearing 2 pictures a second on your buffer.
Yeah.
That makes a difference when you're out there trying to get some sports and you done filled the buffer and you can't do anything, for the next 10 seconds, 20 seconds until it writes all these the pictures. Like all of that matters.
So buffer size, that's a deep term right there because a lot of people don't even know what that is.
You
So
know why?
that's
Because they don't put it on the boxes. They don't put it. I learned
no.
that the hard way. When I was still
Very
a Canon,
deceptive.
when I was still a Canon shooter, and I'm looking at the SL2, the 70D, the 80D, and I'm looking at all these different prices, but all of their frames per second is about the same. I'm like, okay, well, if this one shoots, 5 frames a second, this one five. Why is this one a few $100s more than this one, more than this one?
Yeah.
I learned after I bought the SL2 because they had bigger buffers. So even though they can
That's
capture that many pictures a second, this one might be able to snap for 10 seconds. This one might be able to snap for 2. Big difference.
and what Cap just said in the comments, UHS one compared to UHS two compared to CF Express Type B, Type A.
Yep.
That's a big difference.
Man,
Because
let's talk about it. Look,
I went
uh,
from I was a
here
UHS one, then went to two. Yep.
here's a let me see if it'll focus on it because I don't have it on face.
Yeah.
But here's a okay, it's gonna focus on my face. This is
That's a two.
no,
Oh, it's
this
a
is
Type A.
yeah, it's a UHS two, but it's a V60. So like I
Yeah.
said, the fastest is going to be a V90, which
Yeah.
only Sony is 300 and 299. Everybody else is 300 and 250. But the V60 is 277 and 150. So again, if you have something like a R4, R5, every picture you take is
Yeah.
going to take about a second to clear off that buffer with that card. Versus a V90 right here, pro grade V90, 300 megabytes a second, 250. So now again, you can write twice as many cards. I mean, twice as many pictures on this card. Then you have a CF Express Type A. This is a
Those are
Delkin.
way overpriced. Way overpriced. The Type A's.
I know.
What?
That's the.
What I
If
can
I had to
get
pick
from Angel,
something, if I had
what
to
I can
pick
get
something
from
from
Angel
Sony, I
Bird
hate.
for, because I could get it. I got an Angel Bird CF Express Type B, the SE version. That's, I think it's 1 terabyte. It's like $130. For what you guys pay on the Type A cars is
I don't
robbery.
you don't have to say I know. Look, this what kills me. This is the one complaint I have to Sony. Sony made the Type B cars. Why did we get
I
stuck
know.
with the Type A? I'm like, bro, y'all designed it, and everybody else
Yeah.
gets it, and it's twice as fast for half the price. Make it make sense.
Yeah, the Angel Birds are where it's at for sure. Um, but yeah, just storage in general. When I went to the first time I used a CF Express Type B card in the R5, I was like, I'm never going back.
I don't.
I'm
Every
never
single one
going
of my
back.
cameras has a my my FX6 has two 480 gig CF Express Type A cards in it. My R5 has two. I want to say 100 and no. What did I say? No, there are two 480s in my FX6, two 240s in my A7R5, and one 160 in my A7 IV, and that's only because it has the one Type A slot. And then it has a V90 card in the other. But like, yeah, I'm all for it. They cost, but there are some cheaper brands that are coming out with CF Express cars. I can't remember the brand that's in my FX6, but those 480 gig cards, Black Friday were on sale for like $150, like
Yeah,
per gear. I think they're
yeah,
per gear cards, probably the cheapest Type A cards you can get, and they work.
yeah. That's crazy, man. Man, we're at 50 minutes. We probably wanna wrap it up here,
People are still commenting. I don't know. I don't know. This has been more fun than I thought it would be. Yeah,
yeah,
it is. The biggest flaw that Sony did is those stupid, and I don't get it. I'm like, bro, y'all made the cards. How does everybody else get it but us? I was loyal, Sony. I can't get a Type B slot. Even the bigger cameras don't get a Type B, and I'm like, no. Did they put a Type B in the Bryant? I think they did.
man. For what it costs, they should have. So for you, what do you think your next thing is? So I know you say you're in school right now, but what do you think the next thing that you want to work on getting better at?
Mm, I don't fully know. Um, I don't fully know. Hey, Brittany. Well, they don't know your name, but just call me Pie. Hey, she just told me I don't read the chat. I do. Um, no, I don't want to use your stupid heads. First of all, let me talk about her real quick, right? Y'all know them trucker, not the new age truckers that have like the little early 2000s Bluetooth. I mean, the big trucker
Eric,
headsets that like twice as big as what we got on, that run off a 9-volt battery. That's what she be using as a Bluetooth headset, y'all. Like, I
just
just want it.
because.
I want it to die. Like, I do. Like, it irks my soul. I see your I want it to die. Like, hate is a strong word, and I hate that headset. It's y'all don't understand that. Moment of silence to it.
That's
Okay.
probably good audio though.
No.
Probably good audio in there.
Okay. With that big cancer battery in it. Look, and she loves it too. And when half of her head is all deformed and everything else from that battery sitting right there in her ear, I'm not gonna say nothing. That might be why she don't got no brains. That look, just because a trucker bought it for you didn't mean you had to use it. You could have politely or impolitely declined, because that would have been an insult to me. Why in any of the 2000s are you offering me this old headset that looks like it should have came with a CB radio? Like every time you answer the phone, you don't say hello. You be like breaker. Like, okay, I'm done.
She said she got a commercial you got to finish.
I know, and it's gonna be on why headsets shouldn't be allowed in 2025. Um, and she's gonna be the spokesperson. But no, what do I want to do more of, man? I do want to get on some film sets. Like my goal as far as video stuff, be a DP and to work on some larger projects. I don't know that I want to be like Hollywood huge or anything. Like I don't have any huge aspirations like that. I just want my biggest thing. I just want to make my mark. Um, I like that, but I want to do more of this, more you know, teaching. Like I plan on getting my master's, and a part of I still work in the industry, but a part of what I want to use that master's for is teaching at a collegiate level. Like, cause I tell people all the time, I didn't get here by myself. I've taught myself a lot of how I do, a lot of what I do. I'm not making that up at all. I did teach myself a lot of stuff. I read a lot, I watch a lot, but there were people who took time to invest in me, and I want to be that for other people. I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm not trying to keep people out. I'm not trying to keep people down. Everybody has their own. We can all have the same skill set, and our creativity is going to set us apart. So I just want to help nurture that with people. Hey Cap, if you want to do more music videos, I could help you with that. I get a lot of inquiries about some of those that I don't necessarily be wanting to do, but depending on what you charge for them, what you would charge for them, I'll set it up. I could be on set, help you through, walk you through different things if you need help, and just give my little finder's fee. I don't be wanting to do the work and to sit there and edit these people's stuff. Like I'm not gonna say I'm against music videos or I don't like them. I'll record anything that tells a story. That's my thing. I care more
That's
about
one thing I've never done as a music video.
they're not bad. I'll do
Yeah.
anything where I'm telling a story. That's what as far as doing a video goes, as long as you have a good story, I'll tell it. And the music videos that I choose to do, there's some kind of overlaying story. So when we're shooting the B-roll, it's telling a story in some way. And as long as we're doing that, I'm cool. But my thing is I'm not doing because we are what we are. We're gonna get all the people that want us to do their little hood music videos. Bruh. If we in somebody's
I wouldn't
neighborhood
say.
and you leaning up against some car that you don't own, that your homeboy pulled up in, so it can be in your video, so you can wear a whole bunch of fake jewelry, have a bunch of girls that don't like you twerking in the background, and you pointing guns at me, like I'm not doing it, bro. I'm not. I'm not. I don't need it. Like that don't mean nothing to me. But anything else? Oh yeah, I'm with it. And if we're telling a story, if you got a vision and we're trying to bring it to life, oh yeah, I'm all for it. That's how I ended up working with Joshua Showtime Williams because he R&B singer. He was telling stories in his videos, and I mean they on YouTube doing numbers. The last one I did for him in December's, he just put a post up I think this morning that it's over 720,000 views. And the funny thing about that, because we started off pretty much talking about resolution. Funny thing about that, I don't know if I made some error when I exported it or if there's a cap on what YouTube will allow you to put up as far as size goes. That video only I gave him a 4K file, only uploaded in 720. So that's 720,000 views on a 720p music video that absolutely nobody has cared that it's at 720p.
Man, what I tell people, I tell clients, the more famous, the less I would say like the less good it has to be. It's very rudimentary, but for the clients that aren't famous, you got to be damn near perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and everything has to be like on point. Your video, your audio, your music choice, your location, everything.
So that's the funny thing. It's not even just famous people. people that are willing to spend the money care less. Because it's like if you tell them a price and it's a high price and they already know you, they're familiar with your work, they know they're getting what their money's worth. You know, and 9 times out of 10, whatever you give them, they're going to be okay with because they knew what they were getting into. It's the people that want to lowball you, shortchange you, want you to jump through all the hoops in the world. And why? You didn't pay me to. You want me to
That's the
do
episode.
15 re-edits? Can you tweak this? Can you do that? Can you make me look like I was here?
Man,
Man,
that's the
for that
episode
low
itself.
money, you can't even look at that place in a magazine, let alone make you there.
Man, that's an episode in itself right there. Just dealing with clients, dealing with clientele, people, the amount of people you run across that want you to do things for. Now I got to bring $10,000 worth of stuff out here on the low end sometimes, and then you want me to do it for free, and it's like sometimes it just don't add up. But now I will say there's a time and a place for free work. I'm not totally against it, and I'll do it still sometimes. But by and large, you gotta get compensated these days.
Yeah, got to.
Because you're talking about lights and ATM minis and cameras,
They don't. They don't.
cables,
They don't
batteries.
understand. That's why. Look, that's why we doing this because they don't understand. They don't. They don't understand. Everybody tries to figure out what that is. That's a gobo off of this light. It's a 150 watt um cob light. Hitting my background. Cob lights get pricey.
Yeah.
You know. Again,
That's
sitting
when you
here,
get into like the apertures and like
man.
I stick to the Newers or Godox. I'm a Godox fan. Like I'm a small rig guy. Like
I like small rig.
yeah.
I like Godox, but I left Godox. So my studio lights, well, they're up right now. My studio strobes that I have in here, I have Godox, SK300s, and I'm okay with them.
Yeah.
And I've gone through. I've had the 8200. I still have a Godox V1. But the only thing that made me stray away from Godox for more purchases was customer service. One of those things break. Yeah, your likelihood of sending it off to get fixed. Yeah, that's probably not gonna happen. You just buy another one. And so for that reason, I switched to Westcott. I have the FJ200, the FJ400. That's a lot. I do have the Godox 8600 though, because I was like, I might one day buy the FJ 800, but I'm like, I don't know when I would need an 800 watt strobe because I have the 600 watt strobe that I don't ever use.
Yeah. Now I got two of the FJ 400s myself. But that just came from, hey, I'm leaving a lot of money on the table because I didn't do portraits. So for
You did
the
tell. Matter of
longest
fact,
time,
that's what you were telling me when we
yeah.
met. Yeah,
When I met
that's
you,
right.
I kept telling people I don't really do portraits like that. And it's like, well, because I was leaving a lot of money on the table because everybody was coming to me, hey, I need portraits, I need family, I need like
Mm-hmm.
sports sessions, I need team photos, something like that. And I was like, I don't really do that. Started looking into it, and it's like, well, I already got the camera. I just
Yeah.
need the light.
One of the funny thing
So
that I learned because I was like you, when I started out, I didn't want to do video. I did pictures, solely by itself for like 2 years, and it was in that second year that I started getting asked to do some video stuff. I would do some light editing, like I would do I would do video projects that I didn't have to record the stuff. Like if I was taking stock footage and putting something together for like I did somebody's school project like that for them, and a couple other things where they had their own footage, and I'm just putting it together. I did that. Um, didn't want to dive into video. Even after I got into video, where I'm getting paid to do it, I'm getting hired to do it, it wasn't the thing that I wanted to do primarily. So I'm still going out and introducing myself, telling people I'm a photographer, whatever. I can do some little video things. But when I shifted and then stopped introducing myself as a photographer, now I introduce myself as a multimedia specialist because I don't want to put emphasis on one over the other. The second I started doing that, and I started, accepting, okay, people are whether I want to be that or not, people are looking at me as a videographer now. I got more clients from leaning in on the video stuff than I did on photography, because and I had to realize if say you come take some pictures because it's your 35th birthday. Nothing about you coming to take birthday pictures says you'll ever need a videographer for anything. But my video clients, if you said, hey, say okay, now same birthday, right? Say you're having a 35th birthday party and you just so happen to contact me to do the video before you locked in somebody to do the pictures, because this has happened to me a couple times. They'll hey, I'll quote them a price. Can you do the video for us? Yep, sure can. Boom, boom, boom. It's the price. Oh, hey, by chance, I haven't locked in a photographer yet. Is that something you do, or do you know how to do that, or do you know somebody to recommend? I do that too. Oh, could you do both? Yeah, I got multiple cameras. So, oh, well, then how much would you charge me to do both? And I've had that a lot. I've met people doing a commercial or little promo video or whatever, that while we're talking or while I'm doing the thing, you know what? I might need some pictures. Hey, I need some new family pictures, stuff like that. Like my video clients turn into photo clients. My photo clients don't always turn into both. So I'm like, you know what? So for everybody who wants to leave half of it sitting on the table, I'm like, there are jobs that I've gotten a wedding because I could do both. I've gotten birthday parties and stuff because I can do both. Like, people would rather pay you, twice as much sometimes than have to hire a whole separate entity where, you know, their price, might be more than what you would charge for both, or you'll give them a little bundle deal because you know what, I'm here already anyway. So yeah, if you could do both, man, you're getting all your money.
I think if you happen to learn Photoshop and get competent in Photoshop, just even a little bit, you can take your picture game into flyers, into business
Mm-hmm.
things, cards, other things where they, especially like banners for schools, that's more money that you're putting in your pocket each time that you learn something new. And you add that to your repertoire of things you can offer to potential clients. I think, man, doing video, and this is just marketing 101. When I heard this stat, I immediately, the light bulb switched on. I read this stat a long time ago. 10% of people will look at a photo.
Mm-hmm.
90% will click on or watch a video till it's end.
So I learned that. I learned that the hard way when posting. Okay, another thing I realized before I realized that, when Facebook started letting you can before you just post something on your wall, be white background, black letters. When it started letting you, everybody used to go to like Textgram and Textgram and Tweetgram or whatever, and you make these little pictures, and then you'll come back and post them. When Facebook started letting you, like, if your post isn't over so long, you can make a background and customize. People will look at a picture before they'll look at text. So I would try it both ways. I'll type something and post it, and then I'll make it like a poster thing and post it. They'll look at the picture before they read the text, and then, like you said, people will look at a video before they'll look at a picture. So times are changing. You gotta change with it. Our attention
Yeah,
spans are shorter. Like, everything is so, you got Instagram, TikTok. People just sit there and scroll and look at videos all day. So why would I want to stop and look at something not moving when everything is moving?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. This has been informative.
Yeah, man. I guess we can call it here. We're
Yeah,
starting to lose people we came on with, and I mean, I think, even with the couple people we had a hit.
yeah, yeah. So definitely, they want to like download this, turn it to a little podcast. Apple Podcast, Spotify,
Yeah,
all
man.
platforms.
I'm pretty sure I can save it from here. So yeah, we can definitely do this for now. One of these days we got to sit down in person and
Yeah,
we can do the live stuff and then get some pre-recorded stuff in.
yeah. I gotta figure out my camera. It's the next thing.
And so we got time now, man, because you see how this link thing works. So whenever you can get it to however you can get it to connect. Like, this is what I know. I mean, ever since I think when the A74 came out, it worked like this, and if not, it was an early update. But ever since they added the ability to just plug and play, this is how I've operated for everything.
Yeah, All right, yeah. Well, next time, like we'll come back. We'll do some more for sure.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for tuning in. You know, y'all see the title. I think we'll stick with that. You know, shoot what you got the right way.
Yeah. All right. Peace out, y'all.
All right, man. Thank y'all, everybody.